That hurt.
Then what is this thing?
Gio should never play for US men's national team again because of the action of his parents.
What an idiot! Oh!
What type of Muppet does this?
It's Muppets. Absolute Muppets.
I'm not going to be the best person to give a whole explanation here, but that's...
Booty! Sick! Booty!
Fucking deal with it. What are we really doing?
Yeah, I can agree with that. A zebra in between a tarantula and an elephant
has been nothing more than a sham.
Yeah, we didn't play well, but you know what? At the end of the day, we got the job done.
It's going to be a good time for sure.
Oh, sex with the first cousin would indeed be incest. And
all right, welcome to the Straight Red Card. Yeah, Eric will be, Wynalda will be with us here in about 15 minutes, I believe. He might show up a little earlier, might show up a little later, but we will...
just saw that intro, probably not going to come out at all anymore.
I mean, Alexi loved that intro. Everybody's loved that intro so far. The turd says, I'll sit this one out. Don't want to make it awkward. Excited for the show. But I see others are ready to make it awkward already. Seb told me Eric is a liar. Yeah, we're probably not going to bring Seb up on the show. We might, depending on
Derek, I fear, Derek, you might have just done that.
Oh, he's here early. Eric, how are you? Welcome to the show, my brother.
How are you guys doing? What were you talking about? You weren't talking about Sebastian Wade.
Well, somebody brought it up in the comments, so we immediately said, "Don't rise, don't dust things up that early, guys."
It is what it is. I mean, not to start off on a weird foot or anything, but
no such thing.
But I mean, it's funny how that works, right? When you work for ESPN and you're covering at Major League Soccer, and you have a forced narrative that you have to stick to, and then all of a sudden you no longer cover MLS and you do other things on that platform, and then your tone completely changes. And all the things that, like, for example, with that presidential deal, all the things that I tried to establish in my platform, they're totally in agreement with now. But it was like they were going to have major issues with it and wanted to fight about it. So, I mean, look, we'll get into it today. There's plenty of guys out there. I don't like him. I think he knows that I don't like him. I don't appreciate him, and I don't value him. So that's about all I could say about that dude.
We had a little argument with them too, Brett, as you know. Not with them. I mean, we know they're fine with us.
You're gonna put Herc and Sebastian in the same boat, right?
Yes, because they had who was the guy they brought on?
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez on the show.
Debacle.
And we thought, they're going to ask all these tough questions and they're going to get to do follow-up. And
we're asking before the interview. Like they had shows prior to that interview talking about the hard-hitting questions that were like, yes, asking those.
And then they just let Rodriguez kind of just drift through the interview. No prob. And we just
talk about Nelson Rodriguez?
Rodriguez, yes. Former Flyer. And I thought they were going to really follow up and say, hey, some of this doesn't make sense. Let me follow up with how you just answered that. But I don't know if they weren't allowed to. But if you're not allowed to, then don't do the interview. I'd say, well, we're not allowed to do follow-up questions.
Well, we know how this works, guys. We're in the media. Like, we cover soccer. And there is a celebrated narrative that they'd like us to stick to. And when you venture off, or you ask a hard question, or you actually propose something that falls in the category of logic, the response is usually that's not part of what we're selling here. So get on board or get off the train. And I've been off the train for a while. It's kind of peaceful. It's nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to get to that. I think it's going to be the next thing we get to. But I did want to make sure we gave you the introduction you deserved, which is 1994 World Cup denim legend. Okay. Some of us were about the same old age as you. Brett's a little younger, but I was around for 94. That was freaking a huge transformational part of my life. Okay. I graduated from high school in 89. So I went to IU. Okay. And I wasn't good enough to play soccer at IU, and I wasn't recruited, even though I went to the state finals in Kentucky. Nobody cared. I mean, there wasn't this, thing where they went out and did a lot of research on all the players back then. If you could figure out a way to do it, you did it. But I got to say, it was a massive inspiration in such an exciting time. And to add you to the list of the 7 or 8 other, legends we've had on this show is it's an honor. So thank you for coming on.
Oh, it's an honor is all mine. It's cool. I listen, I think, well, I think too much, but if we stick together, the good people stick together, good things will continue to happen. That's the only. I've stopped trying to change every room, and I just try to change the room I'm in. So
I think that's the way to do it. And there are lots of people out there. I wouldn't say lots. That's not fair. There are enough people out there like Tactical Manager and Pete, and I think this show's very fair. Like, it's not we're out to roast anybody in particular, or like go off the handle, which I once did on this show, and then it went viral, and you saw it, and I thank you for your support on that. But I don't usually act like a complete idiot on the show. I just lost it in that second. But okay, well,
it happens. We all have our moments, but the one thing that we would all recognize that this misfunctioning industry that we're all a part of keeps giving us those moments, doesn't it? It's like every time we think we've got it figured out, somebody tips us off to come out.
And we'll get to that in just a second, but I did want to ask you a question because this is about Saarbrücken in particular and your move to Germany. Always been curious about this, and maybe you've told the story somewhere else, but I haven't heard it yet. That was a rare time. There weren't a whole lot of Americans going over to Germany. There were a handful, all right. But
no, that was the first.
You were the first
in the second division. Yeah,
right.
So
I should have said first. Yeah.
Yeah. So Caligiuri was over there. Bliss, I think, was in Karlsruhe, Jena, second division.
Right.
So there was a couple of guys but I was the first one to play in the Bundesliga, which is probably the story you're alluding to, because it was a crazy time, but it was also, to me, it was everything. I got to have dinner with Clint Dempsey a couple weeks back. We never really got a chance to hang out or get to know each other. I've known him as a member of the media or a commentator or whatever.
Yeah.
And we got to talk about that. When you go over to Europe and that's your goal, it's the guys that recognize in those moments that you really are carrying the flag for everybody.
Yeah.
So that's how I always felt. Every day is so important for me to do everything right, because generations that were going to come after me were going to be judged on my behavior.
Yeah.
I didn't get it all right, and I didn't get it all wrong, but I had some really cool moments in there which changed the perception of a lot of people when it came to the American player and what we were all about. So very proud of that. What question did you want to ask? Because there's some crazy stories in there.
Like the trip over, how did Saarbrücken, they didn't scout you? You must have had to go over there because they heard something about you and you got a trial? Or
in 1991, Schalke 04 was in Miami, and they were on their winter break. And what happened was Peter Neuderer was the coach, and we played in a scrimmage game. I only played for 20 minutes, and I came in and I had an assist, and I ran past the guy and had a couple of good plays. And after the game was over, he asked me if I would have any interest in playing for Schalke. At the time, they were in the second division, and I was, man, so stupid. I said, well, I really hope you play in the first division. And I turned down Schalke. I mean, who does? I mean, what an idiot! Didn't know enough about it.
Holding out for something better.
I mean,
honestly, I had
you don't know what you don't know.
To Malaga, I had another offer. There was a chance, an offset chance, that I might be able to go to. Oh God! At the time, it was Sheffield Wednesday, and there would have been a chance to go play with Harksey, and so and that would have been cool. And there was Trevor Francis, and there was a lot in there, but. I held off. I didn't go. Kind of embarrassed myself at the World Cup, to be honest. And so I should have taken that offer. And then he took that team up to the first division, and then got fired. And then took the 91-92 team up to and they switched jobs. He went to Saarbrücken, and then he took them up to the first division. And apparently, as soon as they got promoted, it's a crazy story, which if you can just stay with me. But this is all in the same week that I got kicked off the national team. Mm-hmm. So I was down I was down with the team, or up, I should say, in Washington, D.C., and we were preparing for the U.S. Cup, which was going to be that year, Portugal, Italy, and Ireland. And so I've been training like crazy. I was in the best form of my life. I really felt like I was ready for this tournament. And Bora Milutinovic, our coach, pulls me in, sits me down, and says, "You don't go to play." And I said, "What do you mean I don't go to play?" And he says, "You don't play. You stay here. You be good teammate." And I was like, "What do you mean? We're playing against Ireland and Portugal and Italy. I've been waiting all year for this. This is my chance to really. This is the measuring stick. I mean, this is everything to me."
Yeah.
And his story was, he said, Roy Wegerle's flight $2,000, and Peter Vermees's flight cost $1,500, and my flight cost $79 to fly back to San Francisco. So what do I go to do? And I said, what do you go to do? You play the players that you think can win the game for you. I'm not telling you what your job is, but
wow,
I want to play. And he says, you don't go to play. And then he had Fernando Clavijo,
That's so crazy.
and he says, you explain it to him. I said, I understand everything, but out of respect for me, can you let me go back to my club, which was the San Francisco Bay Blackhawks and the APSL, and I'll play for them and I'll earn money. But if I'm not, I'm just wasting my time here, and I'm just a practice player. I don't want to be here.
Right.
So send me home. And so
that's crazy.
He basically, he says, no, you stay. So the next day of practice, as it would be, I was pissed off, obviously, and I didn't like the circumstances. And we got into a 4v4 kind of with guys on the barriers and whatnot. I think at the time it was Tony and Brad Tony and Brad. I think Casey was not with us. He didn't get on with Bora either, or maybe they had one of those meetings. I don't know. But every time I got the ball, I scored or I assisted. I was angry, I was volatile, and I started running back, past the coach, and I said, "You gonna fucking pretend I didn't do that? Am I good enough for this?" And he said, "You need to be quiet." And I said, "Well, you need to make better decisions." And we got in a fight. Mm-hmm. And once we went to break, and then we were going to play an 8-on-8 to goal. I was still angry. Tony tried to calm me down. I think Janusz Mihalik tried to calm me down. A couple guys were really trying to get me to come back.
Right.
And I wasn't there. And I got the ball in the wing, and I pushed the ball past Mark Chung, and I elbowed him in the face and broke his nose. Mm-hmm. And it was bad. It was dumb. And Mark and I are great friends, and it was so stupid. And he kicked me off the team. He told me to my face, "You'll never play for this country again. As long as he's the coach, he will never put on the U.S. national team jersey again." And I literally was on a plane. Bill Nuttall drove me to the airport, and I was back in San Francisco hours after that. And the hardest part was I went back to my club. Paul Mariner was my assistant coach and was a very good friend. And I went over to his house, and I said, I really blew it. I screwed up. And I told him the story, and he said, don't worry about it. Just come back here and play, and we'll and that's just play your way out of it. Just prove it to him, and just do the best you can. And so the next day at practice, I went in to talk to Laurie Calloway, who was the coach, and I said, "Listen, I got a problem. I got kicked off the national team, so I might need a raise." That was my line. and he looked at me and he goes, "The only reason why we're paying you this much already is because you're on the national team. But if you're not on the national team, you're no use to me." Mm. And I said, "Wow." And I said, "So, well, am I going to get to play?" He says, "Well, we've been planning without you, so no." Mm-hmm. So now I've basically been told I get kicked off the national team, and I went back to my club to play, and I'm not even starting. I'm not a part of the plan.
Wow.
And I walked into Dan Van Voorhees' office, and I said, "I quit. I don't want to play soccer anymore." And he cried, and I made him sign the paperwork to kick me off the team. We called the coach. He said, "Eric wants to quit." And he said, "Well, we can do without him." So, yeah, fine, fire him.
Wow.
And so now I get in my car, I go back to the house with apartment with my Timmy Martin and Paul Holliker and Bravo and Marcelo Balboa. All my friends are out. Well, Marcelo wasn't there because he was with the national team, but those are my roommates.
Right.
I explained to them what happened, and I got in my car, and I drove all the way back to Westlake Village, and I met with my dad. And I'll never forget that, man, because you got to understand something. My dad was a Princeton, boy. He valedictorian, never got a B in his life, and I quit school for this. And I got to explain it to him. And so he was so pissed, man.
Yeah, I bet.
And he says, "There's good news and bad news." And I said, "Okay." So the bad news is I think you're a complete idiot. He said that there's 4 or 5 messages on our answering machine that I think you should hear. And so I went over to listen to him, and it was Tom Dooley, Paul Caligiuri, who was not a part of that team at that time,
Right.
for no reason. And then it was an agent, Wolfgang Kuhlmann, who explained to me that I had a standing contract waiting for me in Germany. And if I was available, get on the plane.
Yeah.
And I literally got kicked off of 2 teams in 2 days, was on an airplane and landed in Germany. I was making, I think, 18 grand every 2 weeks. I was making 18,000 a year.
Yeah, I bet.
So I couldn't sign that thing quick enough.
Yeah.
And, next thing I know, I'm playing in the Bundesliga. My first game out of the chute was the Pokal, the cup game. I scored a hat trick, and everything kind of started to fall into place. Where I went from literally everything fell apart to maybe a month later, flying my parents to Saarbrücken to watch my first Bundesliga home game.
Right.
I could afford it. I was like, I was so proud. I was like, "Dad, I'm flying you in." He goes, what? He goes, "So this thing worked out for you?" Huh? I said, "I don't even know how to explain it, but I put my mom and dad on the plane. They flew out. I got to have dinner with them a couple nights before the game. And then the first game home game was against Karlsruhe, and that was Ali Khan. I scored both goals, and we won 2-0. And it was a crazy day. But man, that's just, I could have been another statistic. I kicked off the damn team, and then by pure luck and just whatever you want to call it, Peter Neuer was like, "I'll take a chance on this guy." Yeah. And they loaned me for 80 grand, and I got $8,000 of that.
So do you think after the national team and after your club team of getting kicked off 2 teams and then flying over to Germany and scoring that hat trick, do you think either of those coaches looked at that and go, "Oh, well, shit"?
Well, no,
that didn't work out so well.
It's funny how that happened. When we got to January, Boran Milutinovic flew out to Luxembourg, and we met in Luxembourg. And he didn't apologize, and he didn't say, "We need you." He asked me, "Do you want to come back?" And I said, "Are you fucking kidding? I want to play for the United States national team in a World Cup. Is that your question?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in. And he stood up and he hugged me and he kissed me, but he never said sorry. And I'll never understand that.
Coaches don't say sorry.
I know. I do. I as a coach, as a human being, when I screw up, I'll tell you, I was wrong. And
yeah,
I thought about it after, but I did let my teammates down. But I let my teammates down. I let my coach down and the national team and all that, simply because I wanted to play and I was a competitor. But if you look at that body of work right in that beginning, right, where, I think the first 3 goalkeepers I scored against were Bodo Illgner, Jens Lehmann, and Ali Khan. And that's
a damn good lineup.
Tab called me. That was a great conversation, but because Tab and I really weren't that great of friends. But he just said, "Just keep going, man. Keep going." And he was playing at Betis at the time, and he said, "Keep going, man. Just because you gotta understand something. They're showing your highlights here in Spain, and it's the coolest thing. Just keep going." And I was so motivated to continue to play well and to represent my country, even if they kicked me off. It didn't matter. I felt like I was carrying the flag for all of us.
You were. And let me tell you why you were. So I have a German grandfather. He lives in Berlin. We mailed him a VHS that was adaptable, and he could record all the German highlights of all the games, because there was no way to get it in the United States. So, every, month I would get a full VHS tape. Of you,
we did it.
Yeah, of you playing. And this went on all the way through Claudio being there too at Wolfsburg. So I didn't,
McBride was at Wolfsburg too. Mike Lapper was at Wolfsburg. I mean, it was an absolute crazy time, because like once I felt like I kicked down the door and invited all my friends.
Yeah.
And it was such a cool thing that it was happening. I remember when McBride had the bicycle kick against Bayern B team. And I was just, I don't know, that was just such a great moment to like, I told you there's more of us. We're coming. And that's always the way we felt.
How's your German?
It's perfect now. I mean, I haven't spoken in a while. I was talking to Ilya, the president of Bochum, who I say we, but we 4-3 against Union Berlin, in Berlin. But I still do some German television. I got to do some stuff with Guido Buchwald over the world, for the World Cup. So they'll call every once in a while, and wir müssen auf Deutsch reden. But that's that's how that goes.
So sehr good. So one of my things I was.
1 second. This is an 8-year-old that thinks she's going to practice. You're no longer going to practice.
Don't worry about it. Brett has to do this all the time.
Don't worry about it. We're having pizza
all the time.
and that's it. Okay. She's good.
Brett has to do this all the time with his kids.
No practice at pizza. What?
Dude, we had a long weekend. I had 4 games, and my team won the State Cup.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
Which was really cool. I'm proud of those boys. Those are the 09s. And then, we're in a transitional period with the MLS Next group, and those boys won as well. So this is the best season that a Vegas team has ever had, my guys. So they're proud of that. We're sending a bunch of kids to the academies, and it's been fun. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. I have all these friends that are in these spots, like with the Galaxy or LAFC or over at Salt Lake or Austin or wherever. And we're getting these kids a real look, and those calls are fun, because I'm not going to BS them. The kid can't do it. I'm not going to say this is going to work out. I'll say he's not ready, and that's that. Or I'll say the kid's really raw and he could use this kind of training in your environment. But I don't lie to people. I think that's where we get it wrong a lot when it comes to development. We make some certain assumptions, or we put kids in spots that they're not ready for, and then when they fail, we just scratch them off a list instead of give them another chance.
There's a lot of lying going on many levels here that we're going to get to.
Right.
But congratulations on the state championship for sure. And I just, listening to your story about how, things went with the national team early, and sort of, I don't want to say black sheepism where you were kind of cast aside, but, we're talking about a time now where you are still involved with development in this country, which is really nice to hear. But there was this track, this journey that you took that's kind of led you, to run for president, but we'll start earlier than that. When was the kind of first time you felt like, things are not the way they should be? And you noticed that you couldn't do anything about it at the time, right? At the time, but you thought, something's not right here with US Soccer. We're not doing this right. When's the first time that hit you?
Wow. I think it started in 1990, right? 1989, when, not to slag some of my former teammates, but when we got to the World Cup and we got our asses kicked, some of those guys were like, well, that's it. I'm going to hang him up and go get a coaching job somewhere.
Yeah.
And then there was a small group of us, Harksey and Marcelo and myself, obviously, and Tab, who were like, this is the beginning. We got a taste of it and we want more. But I think when you look at it as a whole, there used to be this perception of the American player. And I think, guys I just mentioned, myself included, and the next generation, the Clint Dempseys of the world, and the Carlos Bocanegra's, and people that actually, really pushed the envelope there. There was always this stigma attached to us that we weren't a part of, or we couldn't be a part of real football, if you will, and for various reasons. And some of us didn't do ourselves any favors, but I think when you look at this European model versus the American model, and you have the experience of being a part of it and understanding it, and then you try to bring that back to the United States and hope that other people can digest it and understand it, and they just go, no, we're not doing that. This is the way we do things.
Right.
That's the most frustrating part to me. And when you go through what I went through, on multiple levels, you got to understand. For the first 2 months when I was in Germany, every day they called me Scheizami. Every day, shit American, every day. And after I had played a few games and I had scored some goals and I thought I'd earned their respect, I was working my ass off. I felt like there was a point where, I that's enough, right? Stop calling me that. And I had a massive fight with one of my teammates, and I put that guy down. He was a 32-year-old veteran guy from Cologne, and I just said, if you fucking call me that one more time, you're going to the dentist. And
you say it in German? Did you say it in German?
I didn't understand German at that time. Okay. So he always spoke to me in German, and it was, it was, we say in German, Beleidigung, which is an insult. But they would constantly, insulting me, and it was a big joke, right?
Right.
But I went to my boiling point, and then I put that guy down. The coach came in and said, "Okay, nobody call him Scheizami anymore. It's over, right?"
Right.
And that was a big moment for me because I felt like, I wanted desperately for them to respect me. I didn't give a shit if they like me. But you're going to respect me. And I guess the best story I can tell you is the Karlsruhe game that my family. I flew my mom and dad out, and I came to the team meeting. And the way it worked back then, they had Kicker magazine and they had Bild Zeitung, which are the two, ways that you read about the upcoming game. So one of my teammates had a friend who was in Karlsruhe and he had brought in their version of Kicker. It's like each Kicker is like specific to the region or whatever, that area. And I went to go read it, and I opened it up, and I could see it. One of my teammates going, no, like, don't read it. And I opened it up, and there was a big picture of me with Mickey Mouse ears.
Oh,
and a picture of Vinny Schaefer, who had become, he was a coach of Jamaica. He was a coach at Bayern. But at the time, he was the Karlsruhe coach. And it says, "We are not afraid of Mickey Mouse," meaning me.
Wow.
So, obviously, I think it was a reaction first from my teammates because they go, "Oh shit, he saw it," and I was like, "Well, fuck that guy," and I threw the the thing, and I said, let's get him. So the game happens. Obviously did really well. I did all my, I had the 2 great goals, and then at the end of the game, when the way it worked is you would come up out of the stadium. It's an older stadium, but you had to go up these stairs. And then our locker room was on this side, and then the opposition was over there. But in between, or like on the side of our locker room, was the press room. So as I'm walking up the stairs, I'm wearing my studs, so I sound like a Clydesdale. I'm trying not to fall down. There's no carpet to help you. You're just basically trying to get up the stairs as slowly as you can. It's really dumb that they did that. And I saw Vinny Schaefer. He walking towards the press room. And I said, "Hey, trainer," like that's what you say. "Hey, coach."
Right.
And he goes, "Oh, great." Like he recognizes. And I said, "Hey, you speak English?" And he says, "A little bit."
They all do.
Yeah, right. Everybody gets it, right? And I said, "My name is Eric Wynalda. You guys call me Wynalda. I'm not Mickey Mouse."
Mickey Mouse, as they say. Yeah.
And I said, and he goes, "I know this now." And I said, "Yeah, that's great, but I didn't appreciate that. But if you want to go see Mickey Mouse, I'm from California. I'll give you a fucking tour. I'll introduce you to him.
Disney World, baby."
And I looked at him and I said, "But don't you ever call me that again, you prick."
Yeah.
And I shook his hand and I smiled. And I don't think he got the last part. I don't think he knows that prick was a bad word. I think I got away with it. But I remember walking towards the locker room with this big smile on my face. Like, okay, screw you, man. You that's not going to happen again. You're not going to put me in a spot that's embarrassing for not just me, but anybody that was American. And I just didn't appreciate it. And the funny part was the two media guys one was a local guy, and I don't know where the other guy was from. When I finally came out dressed and ready to go home, you know how the Germans are. They're funny. He goes, "Oh, it's the Wild Wild West." You.
I was just going to ask you about that.
And I basically said, yeah, whatever. But I wasn't trying to be a jerk. I wasn't trying to. I just wanted so badly for them to respect the work, respect American soccer players. And that was a big moment. I mean, that was a big moment for me. But I think Vinny Schaefer figured it out in a hurry that I meant business.
And that's what you're describing in a lot of ways. Yeah, being young, but also being a young striker. Like, all right, so this is more of might be an existential question, but really interesting. Kind of looking at the way you viewed the world as a young player. Like, there's sort of a John Wayne attitude. Like, I'm not taking any shit from anybody. Right. But as you get older, do you find you're getting closer to the whatever, I don't give a fuck, or I don't give a shit, or are you?
No, I care too much. I'll always care. I'll always care. I mean, and that's actually a curse and a blessing, because I just wish people cared as much as I do. I mean, even in their pretending to care. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that think they're doing the right thing, and they're actually a detriment to the game, but they hold high positions, and then we all have to bow down to them and kiss the ring.
Right.
And those people are the most frustrating, because all of this comes from a good place. It's always from the heart, and it's always, how can I help? How can I make this better? And what you learn when you're someone like me is being as honest as I am with in these kind of scenarios, is that doesn't really sit well with people that don't know what they're doing.
Bang.
And there's a lot of people that have we want to call them frauds or not, or it doesn't really matter, or they're limited. Let's just say that. And they are coaching teams, and they are pretending to be important or know things. Right. And and there's a couple of them, a couple of people in those positions that are not totally, insecure or they're just learners, and they're like, what did you see? How do I bet? What did you see, Eric? Because I don't think I saw what you saw. And there's other people like, well, I know what I'm doing, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah, good luck with that. So there's been this concerted effort, I think, from, in a lot of ways. I'm not saying that some of these guys sabotage me, but I wouldn't put it past them that they don't want to coach against me. Mm-hmm. They don't. And I remember the game. Pablo is fantastic, great teammate, friend, the whole bit. Kelly and his wife, and we. I mean, when they first met, I was the captain of Miami. And I remember, which cracks me up, was like the first thing I would do every morning. I'd wake up and I was the captain of the team, and I was like, I hope Pablo's not in trouble. I don't know what kind of trouble those guys get into. So my daughter's creeping up on me here. Are you trying to do something?
All good.
No, this is just my world. I'm up in the loft. We do the show from up here, and I'm, it's not really fair to ask the kids to be quiet, but when you got 6 of them and 3 of them are out, but it doesn't always. It's just the way we do things.
As Derek mentioned, I have my kids randomly pop up, and I've got to mute myself, being like, nope, I'm on a show. You got to go.
Yeah, and that's not his real library, by the way.
So. No, this is. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it is.
It's really impressive, to be honest.
It is.
I really like it.
Damn impressive.
This podcast has done well for me. Okay.
Right. No, but it's like Pablo, for example, to watch him do well right now, right? To see him really galvanize a group, and he's had his fair share of tripwire there. I mean, his assistant coaching deal in Houston didn't work out great. He was pretty good at Colorado. But it's great to see him land on his feet and to really be in a position that he can really help start to with his experience. But the and this isn't in a condescending way, but it took him 8-9 years to get there. And I'd already, that was my starting point.
Right.
So you sound like a jerk when you say it, but there's so many parts of this that there's a way of going about it, and I didn't go about it the right way, and that's why I'm probably not going to fall into one of those.
I mean, I don't know if you went. I don't like to term it as right or wrong. I think you went about it the best way that worked for you and who you are. And I think a lot of us get into this trap that when I was writing, and I would get a call from US Soccer, and they'd say, "You can't write that."
Right.
And you feel like, well, then
why not?
I'm thinking, why? I'm just being honest. And they're like, we
That's
don't
what
really.
I saw. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
Sharing it. You don't like it, so you're going to shut me down? Really?
Exactly.
Well,
That's
we live in a
threats.
wonderful world now where nobody can understand sarcasm, nobody can take criticism. You're labeled as toxic if you were to say anything against the norm, and it's frustrating.
It is. I get it. I mean, I've had the federation say, we're not putting people on your show because you said this. I mean, that whole thing with Gio, when it happened, I got kind of pushed into. I didn't want to go there. I certainly didn't want to be a distraction. I took the high road and basically apologized and retracted my statements. Simply, it wasn't a topic. I just wanted it to go away. And then people like Sebastian Salazar called me a liar, and it's like, I don't think you get it.
I don't think you're lying at all. No, most of us did not believe that you were lying. We just think you were trying to, be.
I wasn't trying to stoke a fire or anything.
Right.
All I said is that the coach has been untruthful about the status of a player, and that's really unfortunate.
And you were right.
It
wasn't
100%
injured.
true.
When I said that out loud, immediately it was, one, how do you know that? Two, why did you say it? And three, are you trying to cause a problem? And it was like, okay, look, do I know that this happened? I did, but I said, I'm going to just choose my words a little bit better, and so everybody can just calm down and focus on the fucking World Cup, not some statement that a pundit had about a player just because I had knowledge of the situation. Because I really look at that from a different lens, being friends with Claudio and Danielle, and understanding the relationships that exist and how that all went down. And I think there's a part of this where we could really, really just say that was horrible and totally disrespectful and or inappropriate, and we could really beat up on that whole scenario. And we're not really thinking about the ramifications of Gio's career, which is still not back on track.
Yep.
And it's a sad thing, but at the same time, when people don't understand, what that actually means to be told in a World Cup that you're not going to play, and your moment is gone, and then expect you to really hold your nerve. I mean, Hope Solo lived it, and we all destroyed her except me. I said, what did you want her to say? I was going to screw up just like Brianna. I mean, like we want a confident young woman at the time to tell us that I would have made those saves. What is wrong with that confidence? Don't kill her for that. Embrace it. And so, I was talking to who was I talking about this? Mo Adu. I said, you and I have something in common. The coach is screwed up in the most important game and didn't play us.
Oh, I know what game you're talking about.
and so he gets physical, emotional, and gets a little bit, you could see it. And I said, see, it's still with you. It still hurts you to relive that thought of, I didn't get to play in that game, and I could have helped, or I deserved to be on that team. I didn't get to play against Brazil on July 4th, the biggest game of that could ever exist. July 4th in a World Cup in the United States, in San Francisco, Palo Alto, where I just lived for 4 years with all of my teammates and my family, and the coach says, no, I think you are too offensive, so I'm going to play Hugo Perez.
Well, Hugo's not a bad replacement, but
he's
a legend, but he's not you.
It wasn't the right game for him.
Right, exactly.
And when Tom Dooley passed it to Ramos and it went right through the box, and I would have been the lazy ass forward on that back post, it would have had a tap in.
Hell yeah.
Milutinovic turned around and went And I said, I would have been there. I'm just letting you know. That would have been my moment. Thanks, asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
And it lives with you for the rest of your life. So when we talk about these things and you ask what the motivation is or where it comes from, or a good place, I'm just tired of that happening over and over again. And nobody does anything about it. I apologize, Jesus Ferreira, but you had no business starting against Holland.
Amen. Amen.
You have. You're a great player. You're a great guy, and
yes, we love him. He's a great guy.
That was one of the worst decisions has ever been made by a national team coach.
Right.
I would keep Maurice Adu's in there, and it was really hilarious watching Jesse Mars try to explain it as the assistant coach with Bob to Maurice.
I saw that.
Well, we thought, and it was like, yeah, you're already done. You thought too much. You got it wrong. And it's the same thing with me. It's happened time and time again. Mm-hmm. So the whole process is guys like me is we can help that bad decision from not happening in the future because of what we know and our ability to cut through the bullshit and actually say, this is the appropriate decision. Not this is what the metrics said, or this is a matchup, or we thought he had a bad morning, or whatever their reasoning is, or whatever the politics that exists. It's about selecting the right group of guys who are going to go on the field and beat the opposition. And it's going to be different, and it's going to require knowledge. But until this country gets that right, guys like me are never going to be happy or satisfied or be convinced that Greg Berhalter knows what he's doing.
Right. And we'll get to more of these questions too, but we should probably do some super chats.
Yep, I'm going to pull that up in a second. I did want to mention one thing. You'd mentioned how
piling up.
Exactly. You mentioned a thing like what happened in the World Cup that happened to Gio Sticks with the player and stuff like that. And I don't know if he frequents the social medias or anything like that, but we hear it on a weekly basis, especially when you have a situation now with Forrest where Nuno's not playing him. We're not playing him nearly enough as he probably should.
I didn't play this.
But you start seeing a ton of posts coming out saying, stuff like, well, it's weird that every team he goes to, he has a problem with the coach, which is a complete falsehood, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not true.
No, look, let me explain that. He's on loan. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was when he was put on loan, they weren't really in a relegation battle. You can't expect somebody to be on loan to be fully invested into a relegation battle, because at the end of the day, when it's over, you go back to your club and peace out. And sorry, that didn't work out. Weston the kid with Leeds. It doesn't always sit well with the fans, with the coach, and the expectations of everybody. So it's a little unfair to judge him on this scenario. I'm just sad that he could have been a part of tomorrow's game against PSG in the semifinals of the Champions League, because I really think he could have helped them. But obviously it's been mismanaged. It's not really about Gio as a soccer player. It's just a bad state of a bunch of circumstances that really have put him in a bad light. And think about this, though. In 1994, Claudio Reyna came onto the scene, and I didn't get to play with him ever. I was playing in Germany, and I came back the May 8th. I'll never forget that, May 8th. And I had a month to train and stay. We did a deal with my club. And I remember at dinner wanting to sit next to Claudio and talk to him, because he was so good. He was our best player. It wasn't even a question. Yeah. And he was supposed to play that left side in that system, and I was going to play in that like false nine behind Ernie. And we really hooked up in the game against Mexico. I've never liked or loved playing with somebody that for whatever reason, we just knew what we were doing. Yeah. And I was so vicious and angry in that game against Mexico. We got the goal. Wegerle got the goal. I got the assist. And I think I flipped off every single person in that stands, because it didn't feel like there was Americans there at that time. But I remember when Claudio pulled his hamstring 2 days before Switzerland. And it's like, think about that. Gio and Claudio lived the same World Cup.
Yeah.
They're the best player on the field, and they don't get to play because of an injury and a would-be an injury.
Yeah. The other one
breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Knowing, when Gio lost his brother Jack to brain cancer, and these two parents have put everything into this basket of saying, this is all about Gio. and his development, and now it's his chance. And Greg Berhalter decided to have a moment, and as good a friend as they would be, and best man at the wedding and all that crap, just all went out the window in a week.
Yeah,
because people succumb to pressure. People don't see the light right in front of them sometimes, and there's no doubt in my mind he got that lineup wrong.
Yes,
should have been a part of it.
Total miscalculation on his part.
And again, going into the World Cup, what manager goes in and tells a player that your playing time is going to be limited? Nobody's ever going to say that to somebody.
There's two things that happened there because Scally and Reyna were the first two there. They got there before everybody else because they were coming out of Dusseldorf, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Best friends too.
And and you know their history. They're best buddies and whatnot. And I think they both had the same meeting on arrival.
Yep.
That's
Shaq Moore.
Scally got totally screwed that World Cup. Good Lord. I mean, I know when you have Jedi and you have Des, and I mean, well, Des wasn't a 90-minute player by any means, but
it doesn't matter. Your point was more valid than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't tell somebody.
Yeah.
The last thing in the world you say to him, you got no chance to play. What you say is, hey, stay ready. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm so glad you're here. It's the World Cup. Enjoy it. But be a good pro and be ready. Be on the ready because you're going to play. Even if that's somewhat of a lie, it's a better lie than telling somebody, well, we're not.
You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's not a lie because you're not even sure. You don't know. You don't know for sure.
Even if it turns out to be,
exactly right.
You might be down 2-1 against England, need that goal. You get put Reyna in,
Yeah, and then we had the immoral leadership conference. I know it was called the moral leadership conference, but it's not. It was the immoral. If you look at the list of speakers, you'd be like puke, vomit, whatever. They're not moral leaders. And then, to be so naive as to think that this is not going to come out. I mean, that showed a real naivety that I think is like, what age we're living in here? We know.
Derek, you didn't mention names, though.
But we all knew. We all knew who the player was.
So. That was the big defense. Like, we never mentioned names. We all knew who he was talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that was really a bad move, obviously, but I wasn't sure that the team could overcome that. Now, because that's to a certain extent, when you go there and you say, what happens in this locker room stays in this locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And you try to create that brotherhood that he keeps talking about, which is total BS, by the way. That's not the way the national team works. It's forced friendship. And you need to go and battle, and you really don't have to like each other. And you certainly don't need to like your coach.
I mean, you don't have to, but I feel like a lot of these guys do because they've been playing with each other.
Look, think about this, though. Yeah, it's great that they get to get flown in on their jets and they all get to hang out and see their buddies again. But at the same time, don't come at me with like, oh, they really like playing for this coach. Yeah, because he keeps starting them.
Yeah, exactly.
What does he want him to say? I'm really unhappy with.
Let's not rock the boat, guys. Let's just bring him back. Why not?
But I want our guys on edge. I want them to constantly be in the frame of mind that my generation was in. We had something to prove. These guys don't feel like they have anything to prove. They're walking through the lobby with their.
Out of curiosity, are you a one cycle purist, or do you believe that there could be coaches that have multiple cycles?
So it's a great question. I think that when we look at the state of things and Crocker's involvement in this, JT Batson, the people that are making some of these decisions. Cindy's not really making any decisions, but she's in the room. But I think that when you look at what Ernie Stewart just did, and anybody that tries to sell me that Ernie was a part of that, this was Ernie's chance to build something, I can't believe it. After watching him,
we don't either.
Create the environment, and watching him dance after he got the trophy.
Oh, that was great.
Man, I did not know that Ernie. I've known him for a long time. Those are pretty good moves, man.
I thought he was going to do the worm for a second.
It was going there, wasn't it? It was like
it was.
They cut off too early. Right?
But I mean, Ernie was a great teammate and a great. And we don't particularly get along because he's been a part of the federation, and I've been barking at him saying, well, "Dude, what is going on? Like, why don't you really have your influence on this stuff?" And then when you're in that room and you're in that environment and you work for those people, there are certain things that you have to adhere to, and I forgive him for that, because I don't think that was Ernie Stewart. We got to see the real Ernie Stewart when he got with Ernest Faber at PSV and said, let's build a team and let's win something.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different culture.
Yeah.
It's a totally different culture, and there's an element of accountability that comes along with Ernie Stewart. That you better fucking get it right, or he'll let you know. I mean, I got that a few times, like, literally threw his shoe at me and said, "You're not as good as you think you are." And in the moment, he was right. I didn't like to hear that, but and then when it was against Canada and I scored the penalty kick, and I went over to celebrate, and he came over to celebrate with me, and I said, somewhere in there's a sorry, and he goes, there's no fucking sorry. You just keep playing. You keep working. He's like literally yelling at me as we're running back. Just because you scored doesn't mean this game's over. You keep working. You fucking hear me? And I'm like, okay. I remember I was running around like an idiot, slide tackling, like while I'm pressuring, like, as a center forward. And I at one point, the crowd reacted actually like, oh my God, look at that guy working hard. I was only doing that because Ernie is basically all over me. I didn't spill, don't worry. And so
pro move.
Yeah, it was the drink I had with the show with the WTF earlier. It's water. If there was any alcohol in it, I would be acting much differently. But
all our drinks have alcohol, by the way. So you're welcome.
Well, I mean,
add alcohol.
We could go there, but I've learned my lesson with that stuff. I try to.
We respect
next time we'll have you on. We'll do a shot per super chat or something like that. So really make it interesting.
We respect that. We don't expect everyone to come on here and drink with us. I mean, that was the whole theme of the show, was two guys sitting at a bar talking about soccer. Right?
I wish it was that way. I mean, we tried to create that at Fox, and how many times we had to shut down or retape just simply because they didn't like what I said. So it's. Mm-hmm. I mean, you said to me earlier today, you said, well, you never really said anything outlandish. And I said, well, that's because you only saw the live stuff. Man, by the way, I was working with Alexi Lawless. So it was like 30 seconds. And like he would go for 55. And I would say, yeah, I agree with everything you just said. Take a break. Obviously, I'm just here to wear makeup. But I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and by the way, we haven't paid you in any way to agree with all the things you've said today, because a lot of what you said today is what we've been saying about Greg and everything else. So,
this isn't a slag on Greg. Okay.
No, it's not. It's not. I don't hate him. I don't hate anybody.
He was a part of our team with the Copa America. I've talked to him prior to, I guess we got in a fight after that Bosnia-Herzegovina game when I took issue with Jordan Morris, Roldan. I think it was a couple of other guys, and those are the two that stood out the most.
Yeah,
and it was at the LA venue, so at Dignity, and I sat and watched the game, and it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. We didn't play well. It was against like their B team. And they had a red card like in the first half, and we still couldn't break them down.
Yep. And
at the end of the game, and people, if you remember, it wasn't full. There wasn't a lot of people there, because the tickets were too expensive.
Yep.
And so I sat in an area with my family, and then there was a kid that went down to get autographs from those boys. And they just walked right past him. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I apologizing to this 8-year-old boy who just got his heart broken because those guys were too good to sign for one kid? Mm-hmm. And that was the most important kid there. I mean, if there was a group of 50 people, would they have stopped? Probably. But don't just pass that kid like he's not there.
Well, that's that's exactly the time that needs to happen.
In my opinion, because we come from a generation where we were trying to build something and we actually cared. And we saw a soccer fan and we were like, oh my God, what's up? This is great. We had a game. I'm going to try to remember this one. I think it was at Oakland. And I think we played El Salvador. And it was a very primarily it was mostly El Salvadorians who was there, and they booed the national anthem, which really pisses me off. I scored a goal. I can't remember who got the other one. It was a really good goal, and I was proud of it. It was a little chip, a good touch goal, and so I was in a great mood after the game. was a rainy night, and then we got on the bus, and then we had to get out of there for some reason a lot earlier. So everybody was in a hurry. So the bus came out, and we saw these 3 American guys running for their lives. They had a flag. They were bleeding. And Lexi and I were like, stop the bus, stop the bus. And so we like literally made the bus stop, and we jumped out. The national team jumped out of the bus and goes, no, come in here. You'll be safe with us. So these 3
reinforcements have arrived. Yeah.
And I said, get in the bus, right? So they get in the bus, and Dr. Bert Mandelbaum was there, and Dr. Callback. And I said, well, the good news is you're sitting with doctors. What happened? He said, well, the El Salvadorian fans were really trying to beat us up.
Jesus.
Then I said, man, I said, you're in good hands with the doc. And I started to walk away, and I heard the guy, like with his buddy, he's bleeding, man. He's got like a pretty good gash right here. He's like sitting, and he goes, dude, we're on the national team bus. This is so fucking cool. And I was like, if anything, that's why we do this, right? I mean, it was like the 3 fans we had that night. We got a chance to save them from getting their asses kicked, which was just a sign. I guess that was 96, 97.
Yeah. Brett, you want to go through some of these because they're piling up here.
Real quick, though, the Bosnia match you mentioned earlier that was in LA or whatever.
Yeah.
Didn't you have like an epic video post rant about that? Just following that game?
I said, yeah, and that was it. That was why Greg got upset. I said,
okay, that's what I thought.
It's hard to believe, but that's what happens when the whole country is a sham.
Yeah.
See, that's kind of one of those things where probably better off not to have those beers at the game.
But it's memorable. This is
and then Greg Berhalter would still answer my phone calls.
This is like now that Derek's embarrassed about the whole epic Lawless and Fox rant for the gold stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it made for great television, though. Thank goodness it happened to you and not to me, though.
Yeah, but too many F-bombs. Too many F-bombs.
Oh, I mean, that happens. I mean, I think the world is in a better place now where, we can be honest, and the F-bomb isn't the end-all, be-all.
Well, Lexi forgave me. I mean, I ripped him a new asshole on that show, and he still came on our show. He's like, yeah, I get it. You lost control. We all do it.
Alexi's, look, let's be honest about Alexi. Alexi is one of the smartest people you'll meet.
Sure.
Navigating through the weeds better than most, but it's really about, it's the Howard Stern idea. It's like half the people hate him, half the people love him, and everybody's listening. So that's if that's what you want to do, and you want to keep saying something without saying something just to provoke a response and get clicks. I mean, that's part of the job at Fox. I just didn't want to take part in that shit.
That was the big thing about that rant was during that show is that they never mentioned anything about that Gold Cup squad being like a B or a C squad.
Never said it.
And Derek, after getting 5 or 6 text messages,
I was getting text messages from my family,
Weston,
my brother, they're all casual fans, and they're like, I thought you said this team is good. This team sucks. And who's Ferreira? I've never heard of this guy. I didn't know he's the best striker we had. Where's Pulisic? I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. This show is not providing any context for you. And now I'm going to have to be on my phone when I want to be watching the game, texting all my relatives and my friends and letting them know, these casuals, this isn't our team. This is a B team. It was very frustrating, and I finally just
if it's a B team, then don't charge people $250 a season.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
C team, actually.
Well, and
to be honest,
it was funny because what was it? It was I think it was the last January Camp Cupcake window, and I think that was
that would have been
HBO or it was I think it was the HBO crew because Marcus Beasley was on there.
Call it Camp Cupcake. We're still calling it that.
Yeah, we still are.
I only got the I'll tell you a funny story about Camp Cupcake. And my memory is probably going to fail me here, but I was brought in by Bob Bradley to be a part of that staff, and that was before the 2010 World Cup. So we brought in a January camp with a bunch of guys that were on the peripheral, like trying to make it, like Benny Feilhaber at that time, Robbie Finley, Jeff Cunningham, Sasha Kleshin, who didn't make the team. Jeff Cameron was in that group, and I remember really not liking the way that Bob was doing things, and we got in a couple of fights, but I not fights, but arguments or real conversations, as he would say. And, I thought they were really productive. The funny story in that is he asked us to give us 3 names of the players that we thought should be on the team or shouldn't be on the team, or who just had a bad camp. We should give us 3 names. I was like, should be on the team, shouldn't be on the team. And in that camp, I said I didn't think Robbie Finley was a national team player. And then all of their staff. I mean, this is Pierre, Zach, Jesse, Mike Sorber. They said Robbie Finley is the best player here, and I went, "Wow,
yeah."
I love Robbie. I mean, I just saw Robbie last year, but I'll be honest with him. If he was sitting right here in front of me, I'd say you probably shouldn't have been on that team. You weren't good enough.
Yeah.
And does that suck to hear? Yeah, but that's just my honest opinion. And sorry if that hurts, but the next statement was, who's the worst player there, and who should never play for the national team in the World Cup? And they went Jeff Cameron, Jeff Cameron, Jeff Cameron, Jeff Cameron. And I said, I don't belong in this room.
Wow.
And he said, why? I said, because I got Jeff Cameron as our best player, best asset, and the guy that I think he just had a bad camp, and you played him out of position. So the irony of it was, I think it was like 8 years later when Bob was in Swansea, he called me at 4:00 in the morning and said, "You're never fucking going to believe this." I said, "What's that?" And he goes, "If I stay here and I get to spend some money, guess who's first on my list?"
Jeff Cameron.
Jeff Cameron. I said, well, congratulations. So. 8 years too late.
and he was down. He was down in the championship by then.
But it's the same narrative, right?
Right.
It's the same. We keep making mistakes. We keep making bad selections, and we don't win games. And there are intricacies too. I remember saying to Bob, and don't get me wrong, I love Bob Bradley more than most. I really do. I think he's an unbelievable guy.
One of my favorites. Yeah.
Yep.
But he stand up, and he was the first time I ever had a coach really be honest with me about my situation and what he really thought, and we had real conversations. I fucking love that guy, and because of all the things I just said. But at the same time, I really felt comfortable enough to talk to him about the game. And he was one of those people that if he thought you had something of relevance or that was helpful to the group, he was going to listen. And that's why I still, to this day, I miss him. I wish he was more involved. And more important than anything else, I wish I was more a part of what he's doing, because I know I can help him. In the moments where he might go a different direction, I would be the guy that would give him that little bit of information that might change his mind. The analogy I gave him, God, he'll get mad at me for telling this story, but who cares?
He does watch our show, so watch out.
Yeah, he'll find it. Ron Waxman will find it.
He's a vid rat.
What were you thinking here? Ron Waxman, the super agent, who always looks like he's getting on a plane to the Bahamas every time I go. Maybe he is. He's made a lot of money. But so Bob said, I said, Bob, when you do the national team camp like this, we want these guys to be so comfortable that they'll show us their dirty laundry now, so we can actually see it. Because right now, all I know about these guys is they're just trying to appease you. They're trying to do what they think Bob Bradley wants. And he goes, I don't think that's true. And I said, okay, when you started dating your wife, Lindsay, he goes, where the fuck is this going? And I said, well,
he knew.
I know, but did you show her your real you?
Mm-hmm.
No, you brushed your teeth twice. You had hair, so you were brushing that too.
He never had hair. He lied.
Oh, he did. He had a little bit. It was good.
Yeah, he did a bit.
And everything was in order, because you weren't going to leave your underwear out. You had done your laundry. You hung it up, and you wanted to impress her. There's no difference than all these players right now who are giving us a false impression of who they really are. I need to see the dirty shit now. I need them to be comfortable, and you've got them in a mindset. Oh shit! I got to make this team. How do I make this team? What do I got to do? And then any information you give them will be exasperated through their play, and they won't be free. Their minds won't be free, and they're just going to do this robotic shit that isn't going to help us.
Right.
And I'll never forget. I didn't say a fucking word every time that the practice was over. And Bob would say to the other coaches, Pierre and Zach, and all, you got anything? I said, yeah, I think we got to work on this. Or Jesse, what do you got? He said, I think tomorrow we should do this and this and this. And they talk for 10 seconds or whatever. But every day they get to me and they go, "You got anything, Eric?" And I went, "Nope, let's go eat." Well, I never said anything for like the first 2 weeks. And then Bob at the game, now it's the game. I think it was Sweden. And I'll never forget this. And Sasha Kleshkin remembers it, which means the world to me because he had a hat trick that night. Is they said, "You got anything?" "Nope, we're ready." "Nope, we're ready. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go." "Eric, you got anything?" I go, "Yeah. Can I say something?" And this is the first time I'd spoken. So the guys are like, "Holy shit, he's going to say something." And my speech was really quick. I said, "Congratulations. All of you can trap and fucking pass the ball, but this is the national team. Become a part of the national team, or you want to be a part of this team and you want to go to a World Cup. Show me your personality. Show it to me now. Show me who you are, good, bad, or indifferent." And I could see like Kleshkin is like rocking. Like he's like, let's go. Like I was like, and I could tell that's a player. That guy, that's a player. And I said, because that's fucking Sweden over there. Go rip their goddamn throats out. And that was it. And that was all I said. And then those guys got up and they did the business. They were terrific. And I remember thinking after that was over, some of the performances were actually exactly what they were designed to be. Those kids actually showed us their frailties. They showed us their flaws. We got to see it. And that's the reason why they didn't make the damn team. But at the end of the day, that's the way I needed that to happen. And Bob was receptive to that. And I think that's why he's a misunderstood guy. He's a very practical man, but he's pretty structured. But what people don't know is that he's really good at connecting with the player. He can connect with the player. And when it goes wrong, like it did in Toronto, for example, I think that those were just a couple of assholes that weren't good team guys.
Right. That just was, chemistry gone wrong.
Is he still angry with USSF?
Yes, of course he is. I mean, the way Bob lost his job was ridiculous. And of course, we had a friend at a party that Bob was at, and, he let it loose on USSF at the time for the way he lost his job, and he had every right to do it. I will say this.
Wait, so he went into Klinsmann, right?
Yeah, he lost his job to Klinsmann, but he didn't go after Klinsmann. He basically was saying USSF had betrayed him and he'll never work for them again, and he would never take a job. Now,
look, to be honest with you, a lot of us feel that way. What just happened to Jesse Marsch is in the same category. People don't know this, but Jesse Marsch was going to be the national team coach. He gave up the Leicester opportunity, and then they pulled the rug out from underneath him in the last minute. That's when you got the Ron Waxman text that he will not be a part of this. But when you get treated like that, right? and trust me, I've felt the sting of that shit more times than many. When people ask me about the Federation now, I say, well, like, if somebody hits you with a whip 100 times, did you really feel 92 and 96?
Felt the same, I guess.
You didn't feel shit because it's you've gotten so used to this is the way they treat you. And let's face it, the Federation hasn't changed a lot. They still have a really sick culture. I mean, when people ask me about that and I say corrupt, what I should say is inept. And I should say that this is people who are trying.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
And they're just not doing it appropriately.
Jumping back to the Jesse Marsch thing real quick, because you had said that obviously that he was so far in the process that he didn't take the Leicester job, and he was going to be lined up for the US men's national team coach role. Then obviously Berhalter gets rehired, but there was an article that came out within the last couple months where, and obviously McBride's no longer with US men's national or USSF at this point, but he had mentioned something along the lines of, well, I was always under the impression that we were always going to be bringing back Berhalter after 2022. So
it was always this was always going to be the case.
That's what it sounded like he said, but I don't know if that was necessarily if they were really taking into consideration the investigation or what.
Brian McBride was the fall guy. Brian McBride was going to be the guy that they pegged this on when things went wrong, and that was really unfair to Brian. I think Brian's feeling the sting of that now. I think Ernie was unfortunately very smart to insulate himself through Brian. That's unfortunate. That's a tactic that we see in corporate world all the time. I got to have a fall guy here, so
Yeah.
Who do I point the finger at when the shit hits the fan?
I mean, my theory is JT Batson hired Betty Crocker. I'm sorry, Matt Crocker. We call him Betty on the show. Sorry, that's probably offensive, but because
I don't think he does anything. I really don't.
I think the decision was already made, and he just came in and said yes. Now all of these,
it was a smoke screen. Just say it. That's exactly what happened.
You think he's the fall guy now?
John Garber is right down the hall from Jay Berhalter with the company that they hired to make this search in between.
Oh God, yeah.
They're all in the same room.
Yes.
But the public doesn't know that all you got to do is walk. It's not like you got to make a call and get on a plane.
Small building. Yeah.
Oh, it's like, hey, can you mind if I talk to you for a second? And
right.
That's how that meeting happened.
Right. And that building's very small. And the idea that you're going to ask, and there were other rumors of other coaches, you're going to ask Jesse Marsh or the other guys that were interviewed to go through this battery of mental tests by this company, outside company. I would just go in and say, read my fucking resume. I mean, seriously.
Well, I don't think that would work if Jesse was really trying to get the job. He doesn't really know in Salzburg.
All the rumors were he refused to take the mental battery of like 4 hours of mental battery tests. And then Greg was the only one willing to do it.
No,
that's what I heard. It could be wrong.
I know it's
well, and even
I mean, when you
Betty Crocker said he did.
The corner he was in, you'll do whatever it takes. I think desperation is a really interesting word.
Yeah.
I mean, you get to obviously he's got to deal with the realities of being hired by his brother, so it's never really helpful, and it's going to cause people to have their issues with it to start with. I mean, somebody said to me yesterday, said, well, the reason why Greg came back is he was cheaper, and they wanted to make it equal for Emma and Greg to make the same amount of money. So that made sense. Yeah. And I thought to myself, that would be the kind of plan that the Federation would implement. That would be the reasoning behind hiring the right guy, the wrong guy, or the right woman or the wrong woman. It's just, it doesn't matter. Were you willing to
it's a compromise.
Yeah, everything is compromised.
You are compromised in that situation. Then if that's the goal, if that's the ceiling you have, then you are compromised in what you can do and can't do. And I don't believe any good federation compromises itself at that level.
We shouldn't, at least, but it is what it is. Okay, we're done with that. What else you want to talk about?
All right, enough of that, I guess.
Let's have these super chats since you mentioned it like 5 times already. Figure we might as well cover them now.
Okay, let's go.
Al Weinstein says for $1.99, thank you, Al, for always being here. You're great. Seb is unprofessional, and ESPN changed tone after World Cup. Huh.
Did you notice that though? With all the ESPN shows kind of ended up going harder on Greg after the World Cup. Like they were.
That's all part of it. I mean, look, I was told when I said I went and met with Eric Shanks, who runs Fox, and David Nathanson at the time, and I said, look, we didn't qualify for the World Cup. This is a passion play. How does this work? I think I can really implement some real change in the federation. I think now is, the iron's hot. If I'm going to do it, I'll do it now. I knew enough about Sunil Gulati. I knew that the whole thing was rigged. I thought that there was a chance to get through the state associations to accumulate enough votes, which I almost did. And then Kyle came into the mix, which was actually the Trojan horse, which was supposed to screw everything up, which it did. But I had to sit with Eric Shanks, and he said, we've never had anything like this. So you can't work for us if you're going to do this. And I said, why is that? He said, because we're partners with United States Soccer, and we have to remember that. So if you're going to say a bunch of things that are really paint a bad light with US Soccer, we can't be financing your employment while you're making those statements. So I quit Fox to give it a shot, which was by far, hands down, the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life. because I was introduced to a whole new world. And if anybody thinks Bob Caniguglia is a good guy, no, he's not a good guy. He's I think it's because at a party a long time ago, because he's a urologist. I think I said to him, I shook his hand. I said, "You're a urologist, aren't you?" I said, "No wonder the fucking sports in a toilet." That was just, sometimes, the people take jokes and laugh with him. I think that burned, it turned him into a very vindictive guy.
It burned. Yeah.
It burns. Basically.
Yes. It burns.
It burns.
My dick is literally on fire. Yeah.
That might have been a little bit too far, but that's okay. That's where.
Well, it's an old Eddie Murphy joke.
But you were talking about Seb and Herc and what they say and then how their tone changes once they're in a different light and they're trying to get clicks.
Yeah.
So that's not real. None of that's real. Like so when people actually are going the route of saying things just to get people to react. And I don't think either one of those guys, no offense to Herc, but he doesn't have any real knowledge of how some of this stuff works. And I get it. He played in Mexico, and that's kind of a cool deal. And you can speak Spanish. I've had him. He's one of the guys that sat right next to me, and I tried to kind of mentor him to show him how to calm down when he does this stuff. But I mean, I can be a little bit. If I don't like you, I will tell you. And I don't like you. That's where he and I went wrong. I just think there's a phoniness to him that I'm just not going to be able to ever handle. That's just not my style.
Right.
And he was a player. He was a teammate. He would have heard it in the locker room, and we'd never be talking about this. But he chose to be a little bit of a douchebag, and now he's gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, we're certainly not going to get in between that fight.
Oh, that would be a quick fight. That would be over pretty quick.
Lou Coutry says for $4.99, ask Eric, is the story about Diego Simeone in the tunnel of Copa America is there? I don't know.
A thing, probably, maybe.
So what happened is Diego Simeone chose to call me a bunch of tu madre a bunch of times, and the way it worked is in Paysandú that's where we played, is that we never warmed up on the field. We were in our joggers and so I got really tired of him saying things in Spanish about our team, and we were fired up, man. We were ready to play, and when we came down the stairs and I had heard him say, I said, fuck you, And he goes, what? And then we grabbed each other, and I grabbed him by the shirt, and then they broke us up pretty quick. But I was so pissed off that he was like, yeah, you fucking Americans, same shit. I mean, it's not too far removed from 92, 93. So, I got in his face, and it was funny. We went to Dubai. I flew out to Dubai to meet with Gianni Infantino, and we were we were at an event together, and he kind of recognized me. He goes, and I said, "Yeah, the American," and he goes, "Oh, puta madre!" It was just fun. It was a funny moment.
Yeah,
you're the fuck you guy. That's what he probably said.
Yeah, well, he was the. I'm not even going to say it. It's the C word in Spanish. And I think it's a bad word. So there's certain words I just won't say.
Sure.
But he called us that a bunch of times. And so, I got into him, and I let him know that I didn't appreciate you talking about my mother like that. So that's
Thank you, Lou Coutry, for the $4.99. We do appreciate it.
This is the second or third time.
That story's been blown out of proportion, and that might be a little bit my fault. I think I exaggerated at one point.
We're going to keep exaggerating too. It's going to go down in U.S. lore. How about that?
It wasn't. Yeah, I exaggerated on that one. That was the same night that Diego Maradona was there, and as we were walking out, some of us got to see him, just as we were leaving. But he did have some words for us, which was really cool. So that was really cool for Diego to shake our hands, and then
that's cool.
He said, he was kind of crying. He was emotional. He said, I'm not crying for Argentina because Argentina lost. It was just beautiful to see you boys play so well. Such beautiful football. And we were like, wow, damn.
And you think of the roster, and it was made up of some really great guys. But
yeah, they kind of backed off a little bit. Zanetti played, Ortega played, Simeone came in.
I'm talking about your roster, Eric.
Oh, our team. I'll take that fucking team anytime.
I know, but you compare it to now, where the roster's made up of all these guys playing in top 5 leagues. That just wasn't happening.
Well, I mean,
but you guys had something different.
But this is kind of the progression. I mean, I would argue this. I was playing at a small club in Germany. Ernie was playing at a small club in Holland.
Yep.
Marcelo was playing in Leon in the Mexican First Division.
You later played there too.
Dooley was playing at Kaiserslautern. Guys like Mike Burns were playing at Brøndby. Wasn't a big club. But Calogero was at St. Pauli. Tab was still, I believe, in Betis, and Harks was at Derby County, or maybe still at Wednesday. I don't remember. John Tomax Moore was
Everton.
No, he was still at Nürnberg, second division in Germany. Claudio was at Leverkusen. I mean, we okay. So the point is that if Tab Ramos were, 22 years old today, yeah, he would be good enough to play at a top club, But that stigma of being an American always hurt us. Sure. So we always had to prove it. I mean, when guys like Jovan Karowski broke in and got to play with Dortmund, and he won the Champions League. He didn't play in a lot of games, but he was
a
guy that broke in. We didn't have a lot of guys play at the big clubs. Dooley was a champion in the German Bundesliga, but if I were 22 years old today, I would have a chance to play at a big club. I know I was good enough. So the hard part is when you're playing at a smaller club and you're playing with for what it's worth, guys that aren't high, really high level. So that's just the way you play. And like if you play for Brentford or you play for I guess a better example would be Nottingham Forest. You're not going to get the goal scoring opportunities that you get at City, Liverpool, Arsenal. You're just not. But because it's just the quality of play is so much higher. And I think we fought for that, and we changed the perception of over the years. And I'd throw Dempsey into that conversation, Friedel, all our goalkeepers. They did a wonderful job of representing the shirt. But it was just a process where people needed to start taking us seriously. I mean, I think Ernie Stewart could have played at PSV. He could have played it's maybe a top club in Belgium, maybe even a first division team, middle to a Werder Bremen, but it's just we weren't accepted by because it was almost a scenario where a Mickey Mouse player, whatever Vinny Schaefer thought of me, they had to go to their bosses and say, I'm going to hire an American. They're like, okay, you do realize you can get the Yugoslavian guy, the Romanian guy for just as much or cheaper. Mm-hmm. Why are we doing this? And that whole stigma attached to us always hurt us.
I get it, but the overall perception today is that, okay, yeah, there were some great players back then, and but the talent today and depth is deeper. And shouldn't we be doing better in Copa America than you guys were able to accomplish back in the day?
Those years are hard to compare, but I mean, let me just make this very clear. When some of these guys go on the record that I'm going to pick on Aleko Eskandarian because he's a really good friend of mine. I love that guy to death. But when he says, "Oh, the players today are so much better than we were," okay, don't bring me into that. Better than you were. Don't bring me into that. All right, Jeff Higgins, just you keep that opinion about you. Don't throw the rest of us in that bucket. So sometimes we get a little squirrely or prickly about that because I think and before I broke my leg, and people forget that I broke my leg in '94. It's pretty bad, and it just took so much out of me. I didn't have the same speed. I had to alter my game. I came back and still had some pretty good years until it fell apart in MLS. But MLS people only saw that version of me. They never got to see me at my best. And, they saw me on one leg with a plate and 6 screws in it. I mean,
Yeah.
I can wake up in the morning and tell you it's raining before I even get outside because I get this.
My knee swells up too. Yep.
Yeah, it's the thing. Every first step to the bathroom in the morning hurts. Even worse than Luis Suarez. So, I mean, it's a thing. But I wish.
Yeah.
When Kate Abdu asked me the other day, she goes, "Would you exchange the opportunity?"
You're going to be on Kicking It, by the way. We should say that soon.
It's going to be really cool.
Nice. Yeah.
It's going to be cool, but I mean, when I saw Tony Mueller cry.
You got to follow that up, huh?
No, but I did cry once because I had to talk about Clive Charles and how much he meant to me. But and Tab when I was asked to discuss what happened on the Brazil game when he got
oh my God, yeah.
For me, I mean, I thought my friend was going to die, so I get emotional about that. I mean, I've already got emotional twice since we've been doing this damn thing because I love the game. I love the emotions that this sport, only this sport, and the only sport in the world that can invoke the kind of emotions that it does because of the way that you get to play this game, especially if you're really good at it and you can have a personality. The beauty of football is that it all comes out. And I love that. I love that about this game. And it'll always be, when people ask me about it now or when I was in tears last night to give you the story. So I run the academy. So as far as the 11s and the 10s and the 9s, right? So they're in succession, whatever. And I ran the academy a little bit differently. I was constantly trying to challenge the boys who were playing up, and then some of the kids needed to play down. So it wasn't like 3 teams, right? The blue team, the yellow team, and the red team, right? I kind of turn it sideways, and then those teams' colors bleed into the next one. So if there's a red and a yellow, there's an orange part. And because there's some kids who are in between. So yesterday in that final, I'm going to say his name because I hope he's going to make it. His name's Anthony Riley. And this is a kid that's a 2010, but he played with my 2009s because I knew that he was ready and he's a special player. And he goes, "Do you think I can do this?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "You're embrace the moment. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Just do your thing, man. Do your thing." Scored a bomb to win the game. Like the youngest kid, right? So we put him in the team on the right side, cuts inside, left footer, top corner, and watching my 09 team celebrate with him, it's a moment you'll never forget as a player, as a kid. It could be the moment that pushes him to a confidence level that he didn't have before. And that's what this game does. Yeah. That's why I love it. That's why I do it. And it's and now my kids are involved. So shit. Now I got all that going.
So jumping back to the conversation we were having with the where when you might get a little agitated when people are comparing today's team versus 94 team or 98 team or whatever, and you told a couple stories already, 2 or 3 stories talking about how you were faced with adversity and you confronted it head on. Like you went up and talked to this coach, or you went over and talked to this player, and you laid it out. Hey, I'm not taking any of your bullshit. Move on. And looking at more recent teams, not necessarily the current team, but more recent teams, I can see that fire in that attitude, that chip on your shoulder type in the Dempseys and the Gooches. But do you see anybody in the current squad that has that kind of a mentality? The type, I'm not taking your bullshit, get away, move on. The chip. Get right up in their face,
I wish I saw more of it, to be honest. I do think Tyler, he's got a bit that I like. More recently, I think Christian is like a silent leader. You have to have guys like that, right? I think Gio's been so suppressed that maybe he's unable to embrace all that. But man, if I really take this current team and take one guy that I wish I had a chance to play with, it would definitely be McKinney.
He's fun.
It is fun, and there's a part of this that's really hard to explain. because I've stood next to guys, you know, during a national anthem who started to choke up and cry and had a hard time breathing, and I'm looking over and I'm going, dude, it's El Salvador, relax, we got this. And there's a part of that where they're so proud of that moment, but the moment's too big for them. It's not like you got to go into a game and say I don't give a shit, but you can't be afraid,
right?
You can't. And the one thing that I will always say is the last verse of our national anthem is what? Home of the brave. And we always got to hear that. We got to hear that before we play. And that has to be the one thing that stays constant. We cannot go into games and not be willing to charge the hill. We everything has to be about doing the right thing, doing it with everything you got, and then protecting your brother or whoever teammate. Somebody screws up. I mean, in bad teams, a guy screws up and guys will go into that jog just to let the play unfold, and then so they'll have somebody to blame in the film room. You know, in a good team, there's no thought process. There's an immediate reaction, and then you finish the play, and then you tell that teammate, "It's all right. Come on, forget it. Let's go." McKinney's that guy, and I like that about him. I like that a lot.
No, I do too.
Well, just like whenever I think about McKinney and the fire that he has, you can always think of the Mexico USA game where there's that scuffle and he comes out, his jersey's just ripped apart. Yeah.
Yep.
It was there. You can tell.
I like it.
It was one of the cool moments.
Do we have another one, Brett, that we need to deal
Supers?
with? I think
Supers?
so.
We got several.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I thought we had a, and we're
How long did we go? We go for about an hour and a half,
Yeah.
and Lexi gave you 2 hours.
Yeah, so we're looking.
I gotta fucking beat that, right?
All right. Yeah. With that in mind, Jose Reyes, one of our longtime supporters. Thank you, Jose. We love you. $10, a couple bucks for the brass balls of this American soccer legend. Ooh, I don't know. You could give him. Is steel harder than brass? I don't know.
I'll take brass. Brass
Okay.
Sounds cool.
Brass is more classic. You know,
Yeah.
my dad used to say that. You got a pair of brass balls. Not that he talked like that, but not near your level. But I dealt with similar things as a Puerto Rican because we only play baseball. I made it to college. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a battle out there.
But that's relevant. I mean, I think there's, you know, we celebrate the stories of, you know, the Jackie Robinsons and all the things that they had to fight with, the racism that and God, that just the character of having to endure that kind of evil and still play a sport and do it with class, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you go through this process, and I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying that what we went through was anything what Jackie Robinson went through, but there is an element to that of biased people that want to, you know, let you know that they don't think you're worth a shit if you're American in this sport. I think over the years, and there's 100 names I could throw on that list of people that were a part of changing that perception. And it's different now. It's different. You know, we do have guys that played for Chelsea and AC Milan and Barcelona and Juventus. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's something that guys like me, we don't get jealous. We're like, okay, good. This is why we went to the wall. This is, you know, even if we're the bodies in between the bricks of the foundation, at least we now know that the foundation is there for a reason, and it's something to build off. And when we see our guys wearing the big shirts and making all this money, yeah, I guess we could be bitter about that, but we're proud of those boys, and we love those boys. Maybe they'll never understand that. I mean, most of them are still in their mid-20s, or a lot of these guys are still in their early 20s. So, I mean, you got to understand, they don't have kids yet. They don't know what these feelings and these emotions are like. So it's all part of it.
Well,
I got to get my kid. Hold on. My kid is, for some reason, kicking a ball up against the Can you stop that, please? Thank you.
So we
you didn't take me to practice, so I've got to kick it somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's I owe them. They're at pizza and ice cream for sure. That's happening.
Here's the funny thing, and this gun kind of goes along with that. when I was starting early on in my 20s and I was covering the Bundesliga as a journalist, if I wanted to get a response from this person or that person or this, I learned early on that sending them questions in English, no go.
Right.
I had to send questions in German if I wanted any feedback whatsoever. It wasn't that they couldn't read English. Oh, they could, but they generally would consider an American soccer journalist is whatever. He probably got demoted from
Make the
covering.
effort. You got to make the effort to speak the language. And look, I learned that too. I mean, the other thing that I guess I'm really proud of, somebody told me this and I wasn't entirely sure if it was true until somebody actually proved it. But apparently I'm the first American American born to ever captain a European side. And that's because I made it my job to understand their culture and learn their language.
Yeah.
And we did have one funny moment. I was like, oh God, 4 months in, and it was Ranissimo. We had the Sunday game, and it was like Temas des Woches, which is like what was his name? Bernd Kraus was the coach of Gladbach, and we had to go to Gladbach. And the story was, if lowly Saarbrücken beats Gladbach, that Kraus is going to get fired. And the game was on a Sunday, and so obviously there's a lot of people back in the studio. So I scored 2 goals in the first half, and I'm coming up the ramp, and the guy says to me, "Hey, can we do interview?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Auf Deutsch?" And I said, "Ja, sicher."
Yeah.
He goes, "Bist du sicher?" I said, "Ja, machen wir das auf Deutsch. That's kein Problem." And so he obviously it's live, and he turns to me and he said, "Wie war der erste Tor?" And I said, what I tried to say is, ich habe den Ball gekriegt und sehr gut geschossen, but I didn't say that. I said, ich habe den Ball gekriegt und sehr gut geschissen, which means I got the ball and I took a great shit.
Yes, exactly.
And he goes, he says,
You cannot say that on TV.
Gut geschissen? And I said, super geschissen. And he goes, video, gut geschissen.
He got the wrong word, buddy.
I mean, it's embarrassing. So I got on it was really a great game. 5-2. We won the game 5-2. And obviously that everybody's talking about how the coach is unfortunately going to lose his job. And they're trying to explain it to their fans. And Gladbach back then, man, a big stadium, a lot of really crazy fans. So I get on the bus, and everybody's like, "Hey!" And I go, "Oh, they're happy. I scored or whatever."
No, they're laughing at you.
They're laughing at me, and because we were in one of those buses, they had a bunch of TVs in it, right? So I get in, I sit down next to my buddy Thomas Stratos, who spoke English, and I said, "Hey, that was good, huh?" And I said, "Hey, I tried an interview in German." And he goes, "Yeah, we know. It's been going on a loop. Here it comes again." And I said, "Well, what did I do?" And he goes, and he explained to me, I did not know that I said it wrong. I was like, geschissen. Oh, come on. I was so close.
It's the past tense of scheiße.
Oh, I was so glad. I mean, it's like schießen is to shoot. Geschossen is to shot. And I decided to say geschissen.
When you say potato, right?
Yeah. I actually, somebody knocking on my door, so I'm going to let Brett handle this question, and I'll be right back. Find out who the hell's at my door.
Who's knocking on your door? Tell her to come back later, Derek.
Yeah, right.
Laverdad for $4.99 says, "We thank you for your dedication and willingness to deal with being drugged through the mud, so our country and its soccer can push forward."
That's the drill, though. I mean, nobody's asking for you to build a statue here. We understood what we were up against, and we did it for everybody. I mean, I would throw a couple guys in that who really were trailblazers / I guess pioneers, and to a certain extent patriots. Like you wanted to carry the flag, and that's why I think we're really proud of that 94 team, because we got us through a really difficult time, but we represented ourselves really well. And we really changed the path of soccer or in this country at least, because I mean, I think it must have been such a great feeling to be in the stadium at the Rose Bowl when we beat Colombia. I mean, I get all the circumstances, and Escobar marked me in that game. We exchanged jerseys. I gave it back to the family. I didn't even keep the jersey. 10, 15 years after he passed away. But to be a fan, like to have that moment of we don't suck anymore was kind of what we embraced.
Yeah.
Like we don't suck anymore. So I dare you to say that we suck, because we will fuck you up. And that was our attitude.
Yeah, that's great.
It was funny because you had mentioned
I felt it.
It was funny because you had mentioned at the beginning of that, saying like, well, we didn't expect a statue in our honor or anything like that. And I always joke around because I don't know if you know or if Derek's told you or anything like that, but Derek and I partook in bringing Indy 11 to Indianapolis.
Right.
Yeah,
And
we talked about that yesterday.
I always joke around about it because he was president of the BYB, the supporters group, for about 4 or 5 years, even a year beforehand or 2 years beforehand. And I was vice president. And I always joked around about saying, like, when we get our new stadium, are we going to get our bronze statue right in front of the stadium?
No.
It was all holding up our arms and stuff. Well, now it's definitely not going to happen. But
yeah,
so that's why I started laughing when you said, like, well, you didn't ask for a statue. I'm like, well, I am.
I mean, look, I'm totally comfortable with this. If our legacy is the guys that showed the world that we don't suck anymore, I'm good with that. That's good. I'm totally. But we did have some really wonderful moments that I think, you know, when I mean, if somebody asked me what was your fondest memory, it was honestly that game against Argentina. I had met Batistuta prior to that through the Reebok relationship, and to shake his hand, exchange jerseys, and over his shoulder in the picture that they took, it said, "You started Siniti 3, ARG 0."
Yeah.
Nice game. And
that's sweet. That's sweet.
I mean, and Simeone after that game, he goes, "I know speak English," and I was like, I said, "I'm sorry," and we shook away, and all he goes, "Next time," like that's what he said, like, and I loved it. I was like, oh, this guy seriously cannot wait to play against me, to kick my ass, and we never got that chance, which is probably good for me.
I mean, that was okay. There are 3 big highlights for me as a U.S. soccer fan. That. The Bob Bradley beating Spain and the Confeds.
Yeah,
and
I
then
watched from the pool at the Win. Can you believe that? It was great.
And
then it was so cool because, you know, there's all these weirdos in banana hammocks jumping up and down. They're like, saying, "We're winning," and I was like, they're not even American, but they're rooting for. This is really cool.
Yeah, I know.
What was the other one?
It was an awesome moment. The other one was, of course, Bruce getting us to, of course, we should have gone further. Yeah, the handball versus Germany at the World Cup in 2002.
We've really gotten screwed a few times in the World Cup. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Slovenia, like Maurice Adu, that was like, what was that guy's name? Koulibaly. Believe it or not, that we already mentioned this once, but Koulibaly, that referee that totally screwed us, was born on the 4th of July. Like, are you kidding me?
Traitor.
Irony than that, and then you know, the Torsten Frings.
Frings, yeah.
God.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was Greg. That was Greg's left footer that got saved off the line. I mean, normally that should have been a penalty kick, a red card, and we possibly go through to play. What would that have been? That meant we would have played against South Korea again,
right?
Which would have been amazing.
A good shot. We would have had a good shot.
We played well in that game. I mean, I think what I take out of that is the most underrated player or performance, I should say, in a World Cup to date. And it's not even a contest. It's Tony Sane. Tony Sane in that game.
Former guest on the show, by the way. We love Tony Sane.
He's one of my favorite human beings. He's doing a lot of great work to hopefully get people to just stop being so damn ignorant. And you know, as far as, you know, some of the work that he does with some of the racial issues that we still have.
Yeah.
He's just such a good man. He's got a great heart. But what a player, man. The first time I played against him in DC, I tried to, big mistake. I tried to win a header against him. I was like, holy hell, this guy's strong.
He's a rock.
He was big. He was good.
Yeah. And now we brought up Bruce Arena, and and I'm thinking about Bruce, and I'm thinking about Bradley, and I'm thinking, neither of those two guys, and I don't know if you've seen the video, Eric, but again, this is not about pooping on Berhalter. This is not what this is about. This is about sort of exploring the psychology behind what he is doing here. But the whole slide about we're going to change the way Americans think about American soccer. I don't know if you saw that. It was extremely uncomfortable for all the players there. It's just not something.
Poor Brendan Anderson.
Yeah, that was his question to the players.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to put that same presentation and that coach as our generation, one of us probably would have said, "What do you mean we? You mean us?
Yes,
we're the ones that are changing this.
Right?
What does this have to fucking do with you?"
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
Because the reality is, and I've said this before, is do I think Greg's a bad coach? No. Do I think he's going about this in the wrong way? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not his job to have an idea of how we should play, or to create a system of play, to mandate that we play a certain way, and to create player profiles. This is the national team. The best players, right, get selected to the national team to represent this country. And then it's his job to put the puzzle together. And that doesn't mean, we're going to play in a 4-back system. But what if playing with 3 in the back makes a hell of a lot more sense to let Jedi go, guys like Dest, or maybe even someone like Whale?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? Why do we have to play your way, coach? I mean, this is going to really suck. You ready?
No, I'm for it.
No,
Let's do it.
This is a terrible thing to reveal. And the guys that are on the field will know this. When we played in that game against Argentina, when we beat them 3-0, Steve Sampson had an idea of what he thought the lineup was going to be. A couple of guys stayed after and convinced him that the lineup needed to include Frank Klopas, who was playing at IAK Athens at the time and was actually enjoying a really good moment of form.
Yeah.
And we knew that we could go to battle with him, and we knew that he was the best fit, and he was going to give us as much as he could in that game. And I guess we basically essentially talked Steve out of his lineup, and then we talked him into ours. And then we completely changed the system on the fly. It took him about probably about 55 minutes to figure out that we were not playing with the lineup or the system that he thought we were playing in.
That's awesome.
We actually did our own thing.
That is awesome.
And it worked. And Ernie, I mean, if you, and Joe Max Moore was a fucking warrior in that game. God, he was good.
Another guest of this show.
He's too damn serious for himself. And we're going to play golf I think we're playing golf next week.
And he will want to kill you if he doesn't.
Oh no, yeah. Someone's going to get a broken 7-iron. But I think when you look at all this stuff and you try to really want to analyze what Greg is doing, he's a very cerebral guy, and let's face it, he likes to think about this stuff, and it's a hard job because you don't get your guys all the time. You only get them for about 100 days a year. I mean, if you really break it down, you really don't get enough time with them. So you try to maximize that time. You overload them with information, and then they aren't playing as free. And it was the logic behind Bruce Arena, because he just let the guys go.
Yes.
And you had to be one of Bruce's guys if you were going to play. But at least there was that trust there. So
that's a problem with the cerebral part, though. Sometimes you can overthink things. And then when we looked at when Hudson came in and BJ came in, and they were like, okay, we're going to loosen this thing up a bit.
That's what's crazy. Like when Sampson was doing the 95 team, he went from a guy who stood before the group and said, I can't coach you guys. I can't. To, in 1998, you must listen to everything that I say. And it's like, and it just got weird and it hurt. Yes. My daughter is going swimming. Now, let me handle this. I got to make sure that the 15-year-old is watching. Braden, make sure you're watching her.
Responsible parenting. That's what
Well,
that
no,
is.
they know that if I'm not there, jacuzzi only. Don't go in the big pool. But
Yeah.
I know what you're going to do. And I got my 15-year-old watching, so I'm not worried.
Yeah. Well, my whole point of that is that Bruce and Bradley would have never made a mission statement like that. That's impossible.
Because necessary.
Yeah, and the prior mission statement was we're going to change the way the rest of the world views.
We just spent the last 30 years doing that, Greg.
Exactly. It had nothing to do with you. And by the way, if anything's going to change the way,
no, he had his part. He had his part in there. I mean, look, he was a part of it. I mean, let's not discount his.
No. As a player, surely, because he played overseas. But what
he
I'm
also
saying
went
is,
to Sweden and tried to learn and tried to get better at his trade. He failed miserably, but at the same time, these are all things that are relevant. I mean,
yeah, they are. But what I'm saying, Eric, is the way, and it's changing already. The way the world's seeing American soccer has been changing for a long time because we're old and it's been evolving. But now the way you change the way the rest of the world sees American soccer is you have West playing at Juventus, Pulisic playing at AC Milan. They're doing that at the club level. You don't need to do that at the national team level. I mean, it will help.
Here's the way I see this. There's certain comfort levels that every player has with their own game, and these are conversations. These are real conversations, and I would have loved to have been in that room to say a simple question: how do you feel about this?
Yeah.
Where do you feel more comfortable? How do we make this easier for you? I mean, I don't like this matchup, Christian. I'd rather see you on the other side, or whatever it is. Sure. Bring him in and say, this is what this guy's bad at. You can kill this guy. You can beat him up. The other guy's it might be a different day. That doesn't mean you're not a good player. That means that we're trying to strategically outwit the other guys. And then when we ran into Louis Van Gaal, he just laughed at us and said, oh my God, we're going to kill him on the wings. And we didn't change our plan, and we didn't have the ability to do that because we were so busy trying to change the way that the world sees us. All we did is validate that we don't know what we're doing in a game where it required some real strategy. And look, you went back to that Mexico game. You know why we beat Mexico? And this is a really weird stat. It blows people away. How many World Cup games did the United States of America win with Claudio Reyna in the midfield? The answer is 0. And people go, wait, what? But he didn't play against Portugal. But when he was asked to play against Mexico, he was the weapon that we ended up utilizing the best because of his time at Rangers. He was able to understand how to play a wing back. He played with 3. It totally threw off Mexico. Mexico had no idea what to do. You're watching their coaches go, oh my God, we got to change this. They made a first half sub. People forget that. Yeah. But it was all Bruce's willingness to go, you know what? Let's try this.
I love that you use his voice.
I just did this thing. I just got to see him out in New York. It was good to see him. He did, as a coach, I think he appreciated. He never got to see me when I was actually good. I was all beat up by then, but I tried to do the best I could. But the last thing he ever said to me was, I think his advice before I went on the video, he goes, Wynalda, just go out there and be a pain in the ass.
The great thing about Bruce,
I can do that.
When I was a young reporter, Bruce would be like, that's a stupid question.
Yeah.
And he would,
that's all part of his stick, though. I mean, the guy from Brooklyn that, like I actually think Bruce will answer any question. And
he will tell you why it's a stupid question. That's why I love him, because I learned from that.
But you know what? But Bob will say, you know what? That's not a stupid question. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Let me get back to you on that. And he'll actually
think about it.
Go think about it, or go research it, or talk to somebody who might know. But Bruce just wants that bubble to fly away and pop somewhere else. I mean, he just wants an answer, and he wants the conversation over with. And it's very different personality.
He was nice to me because I was young, so he would be he would tell me why it was a stupid question, and it was a stupid question. Now that I look back on it, and I don't even remember what the question was.
Everything is a stupid question to Bruce. Bruce is hilarious, man. I think that when you play for him, you play for him. I mean, that's how that goes. I mean, I think that's one of the things that you really appreciate about him is that he keeps it simple, and he knows who he is, and he knows.
Oh, he does. Yeah.
But he's just trying to win the game. That he's still a competitor, and he's never going to do something that would fall into the category of compromise. That's the one good thing about him. He's not a compromiser.
I love him. I really do to this day. So, I mean, it's kind of a man.
That's BS what he just went through in New England.
Yep.
And
we covered that. Yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
I know everything about it, and Richie really needs to do. You know,
that's what I heard
soul
too.
Searching here, I can't believe that somebody who's done so much for another human being to for selfish reasons to go the route that he did to paint a bad light of Bruce was really unfortunate. I mean, I get it. People get weary. People get guilty. I mean, greedy. But to accuse him of some of the things that he accused him of was really.
And the players didn't buy it either.
Well, players are smarter than they look, and
they know.
Can't pull the wool over their eyes. And I think they're still, to be honest, I mean, you can blame it on Caleb Porter now, but that's a team that's still second guessing their inclusion in that locker room. What I mean by that is when you go through something like that and you don't know who the hell to trust, it's really hard to let it go. It's really hard to invest your heart and soul into something where you feel like you're looking over your shoulder and Big Brother is following you around. That's not cool.
This sort of takes us back full circle back to GeoGate with the Immoral Conference and stuff like that. And whenever that came out, I remember a quote from Tim Ream going, "I thought this was handled in the locker room." You know.
Yeah. Look, Tim. I wish. I mean, Tim's one of those guys. I wish he was 28, 29, and it could really help us. But and he's a good dude. He's the salt of the earth, and I think watching him handle the Serginho desk explosion in Trinidad, we learned a lot about Tim Ream, about his comfort zones with doing the right thing. Because there's people that freeze up in those moments and they don't know what to do. So it's the old Rush song. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
I haven't heard that one for a while, man.
Yeah, man, that's what happens out there. If you don't know what the fuck to do, you don't do anything, and then something bad happens. So
what song is that? I'm thinking Limelight. No.
That's got to be.
What song is that?
It's got to be Free Will, right?
I think you're right. Yeah. Limelight.
I will choose a path that's clear. I will choose free will.
I will choose free will.
No, don't try to beat Geddy Lee. I mean, nobody can beat Geddy Lee. Nobody can go that high.
I will choose free will. Yeah, I'm trying here.
But if you go through songs, and you go and you listen to Rush, Tom Sawyer might be about.
Oh, I love Tom Sawyer.
Yeah, because
freaking great song.
Pissed off at the world. But and then there's The Trees, which is a wonderful song about. And then there's Closer to the Heart, which I love because it's about how in order to invoke change, everybody needs to cooperate to get to that.
I know them all. Yeah, me, and Lawless could sit down because I'm a musician too, and I was in a band for about 20 years. So
I would always try to sing. He would play guitar, and I would give him my best Eddie Vedder. Because that's not too hard. I mean, even Adam Sandler can do it.
Even flow. Yeah.
There you go. Wait, so Freezer rests his head on a pillow made of concrete again. Mm-hmm. Now, the other one that he liked, he always tried to talk me into was Rod Stewart, which is not an easy voice.
That is tougher. Yes. That's
I got to warm up to that, but I can do Rod Stewart, and he used to like. We would. I don't know what song we started with, but we'd always end up on Maggie May.
Well, that's a great song.
I forgot the name of the song now. It's been so long.
Well, listen.
I got it. Okay. If I listened long enough to you, I'd find a way to believe that it's all true. That one.
Oh, I'm trying to think.
But then you got to get scratchier as you go.
You do, because he's got that natural.
That's you, lied straight face when I cried.
It's like a Flemingness there.
I look to find a reason to believe.
There it is. Yes, you got it.
That's a great song.
But I mean,
like Alexi, what was great about our relationship, outside of discussing politics, which apparently is a new thing for him. I don't know how he's.
You should have seen him today. He was throwing bombs on it.
Just like bury it, dude. I'm not going to talk about it. But music was always the connector. So what was really cool about our generation is Alexi used to get a boombox for every trip, and then we'd listen to music. That's what we did. We just listened to all kinds of different music. And all kinds of spectrum. I mean, like from Zeppelin to John Cougar Mellencamp we'd bounce around a lot. So what we would do is we would listen to that thing during the trip. And the way it worked with the national team back then, we come in these 10-day trips, play a game and whatever. So he started throwing them off the roof of the damn hotel in the middle of the night. Like he goes, we got to get rid of this thing. I'm like, what are we doing that for, right? So I got this idea that let's go get one of those silver pens. We were always signing shit. So I said, let's get a silver pen and all the team will sign it. And then we get off the bus for the game. And the first kid we saw, we just gave him so there's kids out there with a boombox I can't believe it. We calling it a boombox, but this was the 90s.
Yes.
So then it turned into a guitar. So Alexi would buy a new guitar for every trip, and then we would sit in the room and play and sing, and that was just kind of what we did. And then we would sign it and hand the guitar to the kid at the first kid we saw when we got to the game day, which was pretty cool.
So after we're done with this interview, I'm going to go back into the messages.
By the way, we're over 2 hours, which means I kicked his ass, right?
You did. You have. But I'm going to send you the link to an album that just came out from me that was actually written in 2004 and 5, but remained unreleased because my label collapsed.
Oh, I want to hear it, though. I mean, how many songs?
It's 12 songs.
Nice.
But you might like it. I mean, it's a little more indie rock, so it's more Sonic Youth / Pixies.
All right.
I mean, it's still good music.
We used to go. Where else did we go?
Lose all your confidence when you start talking about your music, Derek. Like, you might like it. It's okay.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of David Bowie.
But now that we're getting to know each other, you just know that I might go, dude, that sucked. I mean, because I know. That might be the answer.
But Lala sent me 3 of them of the songs. When I sent it to him, he's like, those 3 songs are great. So you might like 3 and hate the rest, and that's cool with me. I'm totally fine with that. All right, so to get you off this show, let's finish these damn chats. Not damn chats, because, hey, thank you guys. We love you.
I love it. I mean, that's why we're all connected. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Star Wars Satan, who's been here many times before. Thank you for the $5. Can you talk a few minutes on Freddy Adu? Altidore said a few years ago that Adu was still the most talented player he had ever played with. Well, we had Jimmy Conrad on the show and told us a lot more about what he thought wasn't right with Freddy Adu. But what's your opinion, Eric?
It was too much, too early, and it wasn't fair. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we heard about the Olympic Training Center and this testing that they wanted to do, and trying to determine his age, all that crap.
Yeah, that was weird.
And, which was
that was a rumor.
It wasn't good enough for the Olympic team, and then he just immediately is a pro and gets $1 million Nike contract or Adidas. I don't know which one it was. I shouldn't, but I don't. I thought that there was a lot of talent there, but the bigger issue, I think if you remember, this was like when LeBron was coming out. This was when, was it Quan, the really young 16-year-old golfer. I mean, it was a stage where companies were really trying to sell the idea of, okay, we're tired of professional athletes letting us down with their behavior, so let's just hire kids and promote them because they're not adults yet. So I remember that. Unfortunately, I said something really. I think I might have told you about this earlier, but oh god, when Pecky hit him and he was on the ground, and I got in trouble saying this, but they told this Rob Stone told this great story about how he was still getting a ride from mom to school because he's old enough to drive.
He's 14. Yeah.
And so, like, she was sitting up in the booth and he got hit pretty hard and he was hurting. And then they had to tell her, and we got finished telling the story and the camera was on her. And I said, I wonder what kind of car she's driving now. Those were my words.
Cadillac.
Yeah, whatever it was. I mean, it was one of the sponsors, but the point is it came across as if I was trying to say that she was exploiting her son through all of this, and she was really enjoying herself a little bit too much. And I'm not going to lie, I think that was somewhat of my point. I didn't appreciate the way she was acting.
Yeah,
I didn't appreciate her willingness to throw her son into the deep end of the pool with a bunch of alligators. I didn't think that was fair.
No, that's fair. And then I'm sure you got a call from the office.
Oh yeah. There's a couple calls on that one. Don Garber didn't appreciate it. I mean, my producer told me that he got a call, and and it went from there.
Oh, the sensitivity. Yeah.
Let's do a couple more so I can go be a good dad and feed my kids.
Yeah, I didn't know we were going to go over 2 hours.
I love it. It's great.
Lou Coutry, 499 says, thanks, Eric. The 94 team changed the way the world viewed American soccer much more than Berhalter ever wished he could do.
But we don't have to go there. That's not. It's like give the guy a chance. Like the other part of this is, regardless of my feelings and my willingness to air it out and just say I think you're wrong or I think you got a booger in your nose, whatever the hell I say. That doesn't mean I'm not rooting for us. It doesn't mean I'm saying that was better than this. The idea is for the trajectory to continue to go in the right direction. And that's what people needed to do. We need to all get on board with this. We see this all the time in politics. It's like you're blue or you're red, and everybody was going to fight about what's and you'll go to the wall for that shit. And it's like at the end of the day, when the country needs to come together, whether all these politicians say we need to unite, but nobody knows how to do it.
Yeah.
And when they don't know how to do that alone, and the balance of power and all the things, all these little key phrases that we're going to hear in the next couple of months, it's all relevant to us because in essence, we got to get behind our manager. We've got to hope that this works. We're not the people that made the decision to employ him in the first place. We can complain about it all the time, but those guys that are being complained about need to get some thick skin and just deal with it.
Yes.
The responsibility that you have to be, the commander of this ship. Also, you have to have the accountability to say, I'm the reason it went down.
Right.
And that's what a leader is. It's not somebody who's going to make a bunch of excuses or paint a picture of unrealistic goals or whatever or just make a bunch of bad decisions. I mean, that's all I care about. Stop making bad decisions about who plays in important games. Are we done here? That's it.
Yeah. If you stop making bad decisions, usually the tide will turn in your favor in a natural way. You don't need to unnaturally try to.
Organic. That's the new word.
Oh my God. Let it be organic. Yes. Like if you want to change the way the world or America sees soccer, let it be organic. It will happen on its own. Quit forcing it, as Paul McCartney once sang. Let it be. Let it be.
Let it be.
Yep.
I love it.
All right. I think we're coming to the end of these. Jack Pineda for $2. Ask Eric what he would advise Kevin Sullivan to do.
All right. Well, it's too late.
Yes.
You've already announced that you're going to one of the biggest, best clubs in the world. And now you've got all that Freddy Adu bullshit on your head.
Right.
You got to figure out what your definition of a failure is.
Yep.
Because everybody's expecting you to be the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yep.
My question is, how did we get here? And I'm talking to those parents now.
Yeah.
But this was it really comes down to parenting and guidance, and I don't think this was fair. I think that there was an organic way to let this happen. I get it that I guess 14 is the new 18 in the world of soccer.
Yeah.
And then it's just a process of circumventing all the rules so that you can cheat and make sure that you own the player. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. The advice that I would give him is relax and don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. Enjoy this and don't close your eyes at night or stare at the wall thinking, have I done enough? Have I done enough? He's too young for that. When you're 22, 21, 23 years old and you're in Germany and you're freaking out, okay, you're an adult, and these are pressure that you can put on yourself, unfair or not. We shouldn't be doing this to a 14, 15-year-old kid.
I'm so sick of reading articles about this wonder kid, this wonder kid, that. Why are we doing this?
Freddy Adu did commercials with Pelé.
Campbell's, yeah, soup, yeah. I mean, I get it, but and we say this all the time.
I got a 15-year-old boy. And he's good, right? And so
we saw the videos. Actually, Brett did. I didn't.
He's a good player, and he's going to be great. But that process is going to be his and mine, and I'm going to keep him. I'll steer him away from some bad decisions or the realities of what the world can be, but at the same time, and I'll protect him to a certain extent, but he's got to learn, and he's got to continue to enjoy this, and that's. You stop loving it. My daughter is my oldest. She's 25. She's a funny deal. You love what you do and do what you love, and it's not work.
Yep, absolutely. And with social media, it doesn't help. Now it's all over the place because the Sullivan family have been pushing this as well, which, as you said, is a parent. I wouldn't allow that. I'd be like, no, chill. You go do your work. Do the work.
And the other part of it is, as much as we'd like to expedite the process, I mean, these are still human beings that need to have a normalcy in their life.
Yes.
To have a good set of friends, to take a girlfriend to the movie and kiss a girl for the first. It's not like there's things, it's okay to fall down, to get up, to learn, but to also have the social skills that things like high school will teach you. Things like being in real settings with real circumstances, creating these manufactured environments to try and create the best soccer player doesn't necessarily doesn't mean you're creating the best human, and that's a hard thing to get your arms around when your sole purpose in life is to be the best soccer player of all time.
Yeah,
that's not why we're here. So
right. I mean, the humanity of it is extremely important. Do we have any more, Brett, or is this it, or are we done?
2 hours and 15 minutes. I love it.
Yeah, one last one.
One last one. We're crushing logs here. We're crushing them. All right. Jesse DeGron, 199. Eric, any stepsister fights? I don't think you have a stepsister. By the way, this is an inside joke on the show.
Oh, stepsister? I don't have a stepsister.
Be nice to them.
You don't have to answer that. It's a long debate going back.
So I always make this joke because I got married and we had 3 kids. I got divorced.
Yeah. And
the soccer community knows why we got divorced. But I got remarried and I have 3 more. So the joke is well, those kids are, basically a mixed family, 2 different moms.
Right.
And it's a blended group of and I'm so proud of the love that those kids have for each other, how they help each other through, times of pain or times of joy. I mean, it's really cool how much we share and how much we really, really put an onus on being a family, even though it's a blended family. We all consider ourselves brothers and sisters, at least they do. And they love that, and it's awesome. So I mean, I can't get divorced because I'm gonna end up with 9. I think I told you that.
You did tell me that, yes. But the source of the joke of that question is we had somebody write in at one point and say, "Listen, my mom married a new person. It's now a mixed family. I'm 17, she's 17. we immediately had an attraction to one another, and we started dating behind their backs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, long story. And we said, listen, it's not illegal. You're not actually related.
Well, I mean, all my kids are the same dad, so that ain't happening. But
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same.
It's not a Brady Bunch experiment here going on now.
It's not a weird Brady. No, it's more like more like the Brady Bunch.
All right, so
what you're dealing with.
All right, do you want to end it with that, or do you want you?
We always end with the stepsister thing.
Oh, okay.
Always, yes. That's why that happened, I think.
Yeah,
but I'm not quite sure. But hey, listen, if you are you still you're still hosting the Wynalda Talks football thing, right? Is that every week?
I do that show daily, so you can catch that on Sirius
daily. Holy shit! All right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we go daily, but tomorrow is a big day. I'm doing it with Keith Costigan. He's a good buddy.
Another former guest of the show. Anyhow,
the ginger. Yeah.
Yes.
So we have a lot of fun doing that.
He's a great guy.
We'll do the next 2 days.
Right.
I get Thursday off. I think Tyler Terrence is going to step in for me with Jason Davis. They'll do the show, and then I'll be on Friday, give everybody the precursor to the weekend. But it's usually I'll go 4 days this week, but I usually go every day, and it's just part of my deal. I mean, I have a really great life. I mean, my wife's an attorney. Her days start pretty early, and she's a great mom. I'm going to make sure I let her know that on Mother's Day, but she gets out of here pretty early. So my job in the morning is really to get the kids ready for school and to school. I make their lunches. I make their breakfast. We do some, Alexa, pick a song and dance around like idiots in the kitchen in the morning. But I usually I'll take the dog for a walk. I go golf. And then I get home in time to watch the games. Sometimes I can only get 9 holes in, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll work out. I'll play golf. I'll come watch all the games and catch up on everything. Do the show, and then from school, and we get them kind of like today. We get them doing their homework, and then we go out to dinner, or we have dinner here. Dad's on his own today, and Mom's not getting home for another hour, so it's work late. So basically, it's like pizza. But I've done this before, and I'm gonna out myself. Like there's been times where I will I'll get pizza, but I'll make sure the boxes are gone completely, and then I will pretend like I did something in the pan with corn or something, and then when she asks what they ate, I go, "Oh, they ate healthy. They really ate great." And it's just it's dadhood. And then ice cream. I got to clean up the bowls for the ice cream because Mom doesn't like it when they have ice cream before they go. As long as they brush their teeth, they're good. So,
we're all fathers here, so we've all kind of experienced
the best thing in the world, man.
It is amazing. Yeah, it really is. Really is.
When you really figure out what you're, and they asked me the other day, you asked me about that show, Kicking It, and they said, we're going to play a little, word association. And I blasted a few people. I didn't have some time to. I really
cannot wait for this show to come out.
I wasn't kind to Stu Holden. I wasn't kind to Kyle Martino. I wasn't really too good to Sunil. Anyway, they asked me, okay, word association, and they said Eric, and I said I'm a dad. By definition, if you ask me who I am or all the things that have happened in my world, I'm a dad. I had a great father. I lost him a couple of years ago. And being a dad and being a good father is the most important thing in my world. So that's
no doubt. God, that is a great way to end the show, Eric. I mean, my heart is warm. And the fact that all three of us are dads and fathers is
keep being good dads. That's all we can do.
I'm not like there's no.
That's the message. Change the room you're in. Don't worry about the rest of it. Just
absolutely.
The room you're in matters.
Absolutely, it's the best achievement you can accomplish, and Brett knows it too. And I'm going to say I'm warm and loving this fact that we were finally able to get you on this show. And
even though I couldn't figure out the morning or night, I
was writing.
I was logging on at like 9 o'clock this morning. Where the hell are they? What the hell's going on here?
It's like I wrote Brett. I text Brett. I said, I don't think he saw the PM part.
I didn't. I mean, I gotta get better at reading.
It's okay. I mean, it's been wonderful to have you on. I mean, And, you know, the great thing about a lot of the shows we do is we get to really dig in and meet the people that we have been watching and admiring and or disagreeing with sometimes. And that's all good because this is all about a human experience. And that's great. You don't have to hate people you disagree with all the time. And in fact, we agree with you most of the time. So that's not really a problem.
No hate. There's no hate in this world.
No hate. It's
strongly dislike. Totally acceptable. But no hate.
Hate
is when airplanes start flying into buildings. We don't.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. So go watch Eric's show. It's called Wynalda Talks Football. And we hope to have you back again, you know, when there's really something juicy to talk about. Because you're going to bring the
Careful what you wish for. I might answer the question.
Yay.
That's what we hope for.
We hope for.
All right. Until the next time on the Straight Red Card, we love you. Thank you, Eric. And we'll be back on Thursday. Take care.
That hurt.
Then what is this thing?
Gio should never play for US men's national team again because of the action of his parents.
What an idiot! Oh,
What type of Muppet does this?
Muppets. Absolute Muppets.
I'm not going to be the best person to give a whole explanation here, but that's...
Booty, booty! Sick, sick! Booty, booty!
Fucking deal with it.